Welcome, everyone. I am so glad you're here. You're tuning in to an absolutely critical explainer today, one that tackles a rapidly escalating danger that's facing our kids right now. We're talking about the intersection of adolescent life and digital communication. It's a space that's evolving way faster than most of us can keep up with. If you're a parent, a guardian, an educator, or honestly just someone who cares about the well-being of the next generation, this is essential information. We're going to unpack the hard data, take a clear look at the risks, and figure out exactly what we need to do to protect our teens from the very real threat of online predators. Okay, let's dive into this. I want to ask you a very direct question. Do you truly know what's happening on the digital borderline? I use that phrase, digital borderline, because, well, our teenagers are basically walking a tightrope every single day. On one side, you have normal social development, making friends, exploring relationships, just navigating high school. But on the other side, there's this hidden, often permanent digital landscape that operates by completely different rules. A lot of parents believe they've got a good handle on what their kids are doing online, but the research we're exploring today tells a very different story. It shows that the boundary between harmless digital socializing and severe, life-altering risk is way thinner and crossed way more frequently than we ever imagined. Section 1. The problem. A decade of rapid rise. Look, we can't fix what we don't understand, right? And to understand today's threat landscape, we have to look at just how drastically the digital environment has changed over the last 10 years. Now, a decade might not seem like a long time to us adults, but in the world of smartphones and social media, 10 years is literally an eternity. Behaviors that used to be considered fringe or uncommon are now completely mainstream. To ground our understanding, we're turning to a highly credible, recently published source. The statistics we're about to see come directly from the April 2026 Journal of Adolescent Health. So this isn't just anecdotal evidence. This is rigorous data specifically tracking teenagers aged 13 to 17, middle school and high school. This is the exact window when kids are most vulnerable to peer pressure, eager for validation, and, unfortunately, most susceptible to making decisions without really grasping the long-term consequences. And this brilliantly illustrates the statistical shockwave we're talking about. A decade ago, the Journal of Adolescent Health found that somewhere between 7 and 11% of 13 to 17-year-olds had sent a sexually explicit image. Today, in 2026, that number has skyrocketed to 24%. I mean, let that sink in for a second. Nearly 1 in 4 teenagers has sent a sexually explicit image. We are no longer talking about a small, isolated group of kids making a mistake. We are talking about a normalized behavior affecting a quarter of the adolescent population. And you know, when a behavior becomes this widespread, the corresponding risks multiply exponentially. That brings us to Section 2, the agitation, the threat of sextortion. So that high percentage of teens sending these images is concerning on its own, for sure. But the narrative takes a significantly darker turn when we look at who these images are actually being sent to and what happens next. This is where adolescent sexting morphs from a risky behavior into a severe, targeted threat by online predators. The vulnerability created by just a single image is the exact leverage these predators are looking for. The research identifies a specific danger zone. Basically, the risk of extortion absolutely skyrockets when explicit images leave the bounds of an established, trusted relationship. If a teen sends an image to someone outside a current relationship, maybe an acquaintance, a stranger they met on a gaming platform, or a random social media connection, they are stepping directly into this danger zone. Predators frequently use fake profiles to build this quick, intense false intimacy, tricking kids into stepping outside their comfort zone to send an image. And once that image is sent outside a trusted boundary, the teenager completely loses all control over it. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the betrayal teens face when they take that risk. It is staggering. Among the teenagers who sent a sexually explicit image to someone outside a current relationship, nearly half had that image shared without their permission. Nearly 50%. That's essentially a coin flip. If your teenager sends a compromising photo to someone they aren't in a committed, established relationship with, there is a 1 in 2 chance that image is getting leaked, forwarded, or used to threaten them. This right here is the core mechanic of sextortion. A predator gets the image, threatens to expose it to the teen's family, friends, or school, and demands money or more explicit content. It is a terrifying trap that relies entirely on the kid's fear and shame. Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3. The solution, the conversation we avoid. Listen, the statistics are incredibly scary, and the reality of online predators targeting teens is disturbing, no doubt about it. But the research doesn't just leave us hanging in fear. It points us directly toward the most effective, actionable step we can take right now. We cannot confiscate every device or monitor every single keystroke, but we can arm our children with the knowledge and the confidence they need to navigate this digital borderline safely. So the crucial point is this. Talking to our kids is the ultimate protective step, but it is exactly what we are failing to do. The research explicitly highlights this as the conversation parents are avoiding. And why do we avoid it? Well, because it's awkward. It's uncomfortable. We kind of hope that if we don't bring it up, it just won't happen to our kids. But as we've seen today, 24% of teenagers are already doing this, and half of those who step out of the bounds of a trusted relationship are being exploited. Avoiding the conversation is just no longer an option. We have to talk to them about the reality of sexting, the absolute permanence of digital images, and the manipulative tactics of online predators. We have to make sure they know, without a shadow of a doubt, that if they ever find themselves threatened or extorted, they can come to us without fear of devastating punishment so we can help them out of that trap. I want to leave you with this final vital thought. Will you start the conversation today? The data from the Journal of Adolescent Health proves that the digital landscape has fundamentally changed. The risks of sexting and sextortion are real, they are rising, and predators are actively waiting on the digital borderline. The absolute most powerful shield your teenager has isn't an app and it isn't a firewall. It's an open, honest, and ongoing dialogue with you. Don't wait for the perfect moment because, honestly, it doesn't exist. Step into the discomfort, break the silence, and start the conversation today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Protect yourselves, protect your kids, and keep learning.